of a sudden you watch these men remove boundaries, remove layers, peel off this shame, and all of a sudden you see that, like, you see the joy, the childlike joy on the face, but you see the expression through the body. It's, for me, it's the greatest work I've witnessed, because then them men go back into the world and they're dancing in the world with
the kids,
with life, with their partners, with family members. There's just this like and then there's a real lovely balance between being a man, and offering that masculinity to the world, but then it feels more wholesome and regulated, and that's trust as well, Craig. That's trust and spontaneity and surrender, and trust, spontaneity and surrender can be such a scary thing for a bloke. So it's like, how do we? It's about relearning and having a relationship with spontaneity. You know what I mean? It's good, control what you can control, but life's a dance between certainty and uncertainty.
Of course.
But we have to relate with uncertainty in a way that feels exciting. You have to dance in the fear, or dance with the unknown. And then you begin to live then. You become less vigilant, you're less in the head, you're more in the body, and then you're more trusting the body's intelligence, which is more intuitive.
So welcome to another episode of the Dare to be Different podcast. This episode is a special edition where I'm joined by my co-pilot, Martin Bourne, coach, meditation teacher from the city of Liverpool. Myself and Martin have been running workshops, programs and leadership retreats for men together now for a number of years. And the topic of today is movement and dance as a way of accelerating transformation. If you're a man out there, especially if you're a man from the British Isles or Ireland, don't switch off. Because I know you hear the word dance and you freeze. Your nervous system freeze, you become fearful, you turn away. Please stay tuned, because we're not saying that you have to dance to transform in any shape or form. We're just going to share our own stories of how dance from the day we were born to now has played a part in our life and how it supported our transformation. And if you listen to our stories, you'll more than likely develop insight and a deep self-awareness around why you are the way you are in life. So, Martin, what a taboo topic in the world that you and I came from, northern men.
Dance.
Yeah.
I think, I've been brought up with dance, living in Liverpool, and there being so many iconic clubs in the city. But I think there certainly was a time where I felt like I wasn't able to, really move into that space. I think I turned 40 not long ago, a few weeks back. And I think where I'm at in my life, there's been a lot of recreating, so to speak. And even, my, belief system around dance, it's more really about movement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Movement expression.
Absolutely. So I think, giving people a framework to actually help them to understand we're just moving. You know what I mean?
We're just moving.
We're just moving, and but there's such a symbology to it, Craig, because like it's about how do we move through life? Do you know what I mean? Or what are we moving through? In our own personal transformation, or who we dancing with? In our relationships. So there's a lot of symbology to it. It's not necessarily about dance. In the sense of being on a dance floor, so to speak. Yeah. But I think certainly having that aspect of an understanding of what it really means to me, and how I use these terminologies now to help people move through transformation.
Now, I want to talk in a moment about the fear that comes up in many people, especially men in this part of the world, when we say the word dance or when they enter into the dance floor, because a certain fear kicks in that you and I know, which we'll go into, relates to, what we downloaded about what it means to be a man growing up in the world as kids.
Yeah.
Now, It's ironic because you're from a tennis background. Tennis is a fucking dance. It's a beautiful dance.
Yeah.
I'm from a rugby background. Rugby is a dance. But yet we're put on a dance floor and we freeze.
Yeah.
But yet dance is an expression of the body. It's a way of communicating with your body. It's a way of celebrating your body. You know, the opposite of depression is expression. But yet, you know, in this part of the world, we don't really see men expressing in that kind of non-linear way of just being free in their bodies. Let's talk about childhood and what you and I downloaded about what it means to be a man, and how that affected our capacity to move.
I mean, you know, growing up in Liverpool, there is obviously a collective culture, you know, where it's a bit of a dog eat dog, you know, and you've definitely got to have a level of you know, determination and will, you know, to move through, especially, you know, in the inner city, so to speak. And so, you know, growing up, you know, in that environment, it was it's hard. It's, you know, it's a tough place. And I think, you know, I was born in the 80s, so back then you were just like left to it, so to speak. You know, my mum wanted me out the house. She didn't want me in the house. And she'd be, you know, get out there, you know, do your thing. So growing up and what was modelled to me, I think was a level of just trying to like feel my way into my environment. Initiation, you know, for me came quite naturally. It was more on the streets. Yeah. You know, so I think, you know, being on the streets and dancing through life and dancing through my childhood gave me like an opportunity to really like find out who am I, you know, and what's important to me and what direction do I want to go. And, you know, you're just learning a lot, you know, being a child and growing up. So, you know, I mean, what was it like for you in Wigan?
Well, to be honest, I can't remember the age. I mean, it accelerated in my teenage years where those are the cool years and you have to be a certain way. But in relation to dance or moving my body and just being free in my body, I remember at a relatively early age, and a lot of what I downloaded about what it means to be a man came from watching my mum and dad's reaction to TV.
Yeah.
You know, and I found out very early that, you know, for me to be accepted as a man in that world, I had to be alpha. I had to be like a warrior. Don't show emotion. I didn't really dance because men didn't dance.
Yeah.
Dance was the domain of women.
Yeah.
You know, girls danced. Yeah. You know, you move your body in a non-linear, spontaneous way. The kids at school, don't be a girl. So very early I learned that men didn't dance.
Yeah.
Men were sporty.
Yeah. Men
were aggressive. Men went to the gym when they were old enough to go to the gym. Men were better than women. Men came out on top.
Yeah.
In relation to women, they won arguments. They dominated women. That's the world that I grew up in. So, but I don't remember feeling embarrassed at dancing until I got to my teenage years when it was not cool to do that. And I'll tell you why, because when I was 10, I don't know how I got into it. I think my dad had some Elvis music and I got into rock and roll when I was 10, actually. All my mates were into mod and the jam and all that kind of stuff. And I was a little bit, but I had a gang, there's 3 or 4 of us, and we were into rock and roll.
Yeah.
Listening to Elvis, Shakin' Stevens, Bill Haley in the comments, The Platters, Stray Cats. And there's like this weird little sect.
Yeah.
And every Saturday we used to go to under 14's disco in town where all these mods, and we were this little sect. And whenever like the rockabilly music came on, we'd do the proper teddy boy dance on. We'd have the jeans on, Beatle crossers, check shirt, rockabilly necktie, leather jacket with all the patches on the back, and we'd be dancing like heel toe dancing.
Wow.
You know, back drops, front drops, spins, and there was a relative freedom in that.
Yeah.
And I remember not actually being that bothered what people thought about me. I don't know where it came from. I guess I was one of those weird kids in relation to where music was concerned. But when I was 11, I got picked to play for the town at rugby league, and I realised I was good at it. and I'm mixing more with rugby people. And I had this vision of, actually, I think I'm going to be a professional rugby player.
Yeah.
And then I went to high school, and it wasn't cool. And I wore a mask of the tough guy.
Yeah.
And if you'd have asked me to dance, I would have not gone near the dance floor. I remember going to school discos a little bit older, 13, 14, and I'd just be frozen at the back.
Yeah.
And I would not go near the dance floor, and I was stiff, and I was linear. It was then that I realised, not at the time, but looking back, that I became one-dimensional and very linear. I started going to the gym, pushing weights, linear, running, linear, cycling, linear. Everything was in this safe box of linearity. And it's because I became hypermasculine. And I repressed and suppressed everything that I learnt, and this is not an absolute, I learnt was the domain of women. Spontaneity, non-linear movement, sensitivity, the world of emotions.
Yes. I mean, my experience, very similar. You know, obviously being in primary school and being, in and around girls and obviously, the discos, the after-school clubs. And I remember very clearly that life just seemed a lot more innocent, you know what I mean? A lot more free-flowing. And there was so much more fluidity. And then, 10, 11, I went to an all-boys school. So I think that there was a sense of, that was initiating in itself, because it didn't feel so innocent, because you were then in a school with lads who were, much older, and they looked like men. So I know I entered almost like this survival type space, do you know what I mean? Where I was probably a lot more hypervigilant, less fluid like, and then just started to pack up into, crowds with lads, and there was just a sense of wanting to belong, wanting to feel safe. And then, I think what was developing for me was a sense of vigilance of like, okay, well, this is who I am now. I've got to fit in. I found my crowd. Luckily, I did have tennis to sort of fall back on, and that was an amazing container for me for expression. But I wasn't the lucky one. I wasn't. The friends of mine weren't so lucky to almost have them containers. I mean, Liverpool's such a football, oriented, culture that lads probably have that expression through football. But definitely for a number of years, it was almost like I stopped dancing, so to speak.
Me too.
But found an expression through other containers. It wasn't until I was probably around 16, 17 where that next step into going to a club, and actually seeing and being a part of, it being in that environment where it was like everyone was actually dancing. So it became a permission slip to move again in a non-linear way. But it was almost like I've forgotten how to dance for probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, me too. And I actually remember, I remember going out on the town when I was 18. I was so into rugby, me and my mate Andy Fairclough, and everybody was drinking on the street. We didn't even drink alcohol on the street ever because we were just so into rugby. But I remember when we started going out and drinking alcohol, and we'd dance at the end of the night, but it was under the influence of alcohol. I couldn't do it without alcohol, and I only did it to try and hook up with a girl on the dance floor. But there was a significant moment for me in my life, and I know you've had the same significance as well. And I've never gone into detail about this on a podcast, but I am now because it was so significant in my life. And it relates to dance, and it relates to expression, and it relates to starting the journey of reclaiming my repressed emotions and being fine with that side of me, which took a very, very long time and is still a work in progress. So I'm 19, and for a couple of years I'd seen my mate Steve with this other gang, and they were going to raves, illegal raves, and he kept inviting me, and I was like, no, fuck off, I'm going for a run, I'm training, and he'd invite me, and then I got to about 19 and I thought, do you know what, this rugby thing's not going to happen for me. I'm not going to sound professional. I've had a couple of offers, but I wanted to play for Wigan, and it's not going to happen. So me and my mate Andy decided to go with him to this club in London called the Astoria. And we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't plan on taking any ecstasy or any drugs or anything like that, but we got on this bus, full bus. We get to this club in London, central London. I'm 19, huge queues, huge bouncers. We're in the big city, and I've never been to a club before in London. And anyway, we're dying to get in. Across was this famous bar called the Milk Bar. And anyway, we get us in this club. And we're in this club. We weren't even drinking. We were drinking water. And my mate Steve comes up to me and Andy. And he said, open your mouth. So he pops this ecstasy pill right in my mouth. Never had anything like that before. Never touched anything. Nothing. I hardly touched alcohol. And within an hour, it was extremely transformational. My defences came down. My insecurities came down. I loved everybody. I was confident as fuck. My body started to move. I had a vibration going up my spine that I'd never felt before. I could feel my body vibrating. I was in my body and out my head. And the music, house music of the 90s, mate, I just could not stop dancing. And I'd never moved that way ever before in my life. It's like, whoa, how fucking good am I at dancing? And so we'll go into that a little bit more, but it was significant for me and it took me on a real journey. It was, if you like, step one of my transformation into more of who I really am. What about you?
The body, Craig, wants to move. And, you know, as you were saying before, I think we have become very linear, especially guys. Like, we like to know where we're going and we like to know where we've been. So we step into this realm of time, you know what I mean? And everything can be really linear, you know, one track and laser beam focus. And I think there's something beautiful in that, but it also takes us away from this level of flexibility and, you know, almost, you know, this non-linear space. Again, like probably from the age of 11 to 15, 16, you know, gone through secondary school. And I had a great time, you know, in secondary school and a lot of wonderful memories, but very much in the head, you know. And then there was then this sort of collective social pressure of like, what are you going to do next? I was pretty lucky because my mum and dad had a level of confidence in me to, you know, to sort of find my way. And I think I always probably by default had like tennis coach in the background of I will move into that space. I remember finishing school, you know, finishing GCSEs, 16, 17, and a lot of people started going into town. There was a massive club in Liverpool called the Paradox at the time, and even on a Saturday night, I'd sit up all night and listen to it on the radio. And you know them old cassette tapes where you know you press play and record.
You record it,
And there was just this buzz that used to come, and that was like every Saturday for about a year. Because I was a bit of a late bloomer and I didn't hit puberty till I was about 14, you know. And I was working at Marks and Spencer's at the time. And then I remember like my mates, they were all going out and they were going to this club in town called the 051.
How old were you?
I think I was 17.
Yeah.
I was definitely, I was 17. I just turned 17 in the May. And this was I remember it was like the October. And so, you know, it was like my first night out in town. Got a fake ID. You know, and I'm, you know, I'm
Scouse ID,
fake ID, and I'm like, right, I'm ready for this. And I didn't know what I was ready for. I think just being out in town and having a drink and being in that adult environment was incredibly transformational, because I felt like now, okay, I'm a man now. You know what I mean? I've come away from school, but I'm in this queue for the 051, and there's a buzzer by this place. The queue is like round, you know, the building, and you can just hear this, and it's in the basement. It's underneath, so you can just hear this thumping. You know what I mean? It's just this primal depth. And you know, as we're getting closer, the butterflies are just like, you know, because you're thinking, am I going to get in?
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's like, I've got to get in first. So, and you can just feel this heat, you know, from these grills coming up from underneath. And you just couldn't deny this feeling. I remember getting to the front, and fella said, "Have you got any ID?" Pulled my ID out, and he took a look at it, and then he waved me in, and I did the level of relief just getting through the door, and I remember it so well, like it was yesterday. So I paid in, and then you go down the stairs. I nearly fell down the stairs because it was, I just wanted to be in there.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget it. For the first time, I got to the bottom of the stairs, and then I just seen this, like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, to be honest. 2,000 people in this club. No phones, by the way. This is like 2002, and it was like everybody in there was raving, and I'm talking like hands in the air, like no one standing still. The music was thumping, and there was a resonance in the room, and I remember just going, fucking hell, what is this
community? And
I just felt like I'd arrived. I felt like, and I remember saying, this is me.
Yeah.
This is a bit of me.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, the hype of being out with your mates, not being in town before, being in the adult world. But then I had this real natural pull towards music, and dance music at that. And then it was a total permission slip to fucking dance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like almost within minutes you were just like, right, get me a drink. You get your spec with the lads. And it was like everyone was just in this beat, and back then it was like a housey, trancey vibe, and you'd just be dancing, and everyone would be at it, and we're talking hours and hours and hours, just sweating, and you just felt a part of something, and that was my life then, and it still is my life. I'm 40 years old, and I still actually like to get my feet on the dance floor. But it's been a very long, wonderful relationship with dance music, with house music, with clubbing, with festivals, with raving. That has played an instrumental, transformational role in my life, in being able to express. I didn't know at the time, but upon reflection, especially like moving into a lot of sort of esoteric meditation concepts and coaching and psychology and personal development, being on the dance floor wasn't just a permission slip for me to move and dance and express, but it was an opportunity to go back in the body. The body knew what to do. And when I was in the body, and I don't think I'd been in the body probably since I was a kid, so I started to remember what it felt like to be a child again, within that innocence. I wasn't in the head. I'm not projecting to the future. I'm not reminiscing the past. I'm not vigilant. I'm not, I'm not trying to make plans and not thinking about what my next move is. I was just present. And that presence, it was euphoria. It was ecstatic. It was blissful. And I became addicted to it. And especially at that age, certainly for the first couple of years, the 051 was like that, that was like that was the playground. To just connect. And that's what I was doing. I was just connecting and reconnecting. And then it became, I've had a wonderful relationship, with movements and dance in so many different containers over a period of time. But that was my initiation. Yeah.
Do there's a lot of talk at the moment about, how important it is for men to learn, because we need to learn how to get in contact with our emotions and how to be in our body and how to learn to express what was repressed. You look at women have been emotional for thousands of years and we've not. And it's only now in this kind of reality that we live in today where there's a need for leaders and fathers to be able to relate better. And the world of relationship is the world of emotions. And what I want to say before I go back into my story is, there's so many ways for men to, if you like, get out of the head and into the body and feel into that language of emotion and learn a new way of relating. Yet movement is a real direct doorway into that. Because what is dance? It's a combination of movement and breath.
Yeah, definitely.
So by going into some type of conscious movement, and I don't mean blocking your pain out by killing yourself in the gym, by going into some type of intentional, conscious movement practice, we really do open that doorway into our emotions. So, you know, movement, whatever you want to call it, dance, is a real doorway into that domain. And it's one that you and I have benefited from.
1,000,000%.
So going back into my story, you know, I'm 19, I've had this experience in London, it's changed my life, I'm in my body, I've felt joy and bliss like never before, and I became addicted. We weren't even drinking alcohol for the first 3 years. We just used to go to clubs. We'd go to a club in Widnes called Club 4, one in Stoke called Golden, back to basics in Leeds, a club called Hackett's in Blackpool. It was epic. We did this for years. And we'd just rock up there, we weren't drinking, we'd have a pill, we'd feel the vibration, and then we're off, tops off, and we're just expressing and celebrating life. But it was only a step for me because, you know, you go home, you're still buzzing on a Monday because you're able to cope with the come down because it was so good. Tuesday kicks in, Wednesday you're on your knees, Thursday you're feeling fucking depressed. And you're not able, you're still not, you've danced at the weekend, but because it's been under the influence of something else, you're not really able to navigate those emotions. I still couldn't navigate my emotions. I was scared of them. So I'd feel shitty on a Wednesday and a Thursday. Friday would come, buzzing again, give me a pill. Sometimes we'd dance Friday, Saturday and Sunday. But it was only a step for me because I still needed that artificial, if you like, ecstasy tablet.
Of course.
So I could go there.
I mean, it's got a sell-by date, that, Craig. You know what I mean? I was very similar story. I think through my 20s, I can't remember a Saturday night in. You know, I just can't remember a Saturday night in.
Me too.
And I can't remember a Sunday night, a Sunday afternoon out. You know, I was always just hungover. And it, you know, that extension from, you know, the 051, you know, moved into like, you know, other clubs in Liverpool, you know, and some iconic clubs. And then it started to travel, you know, so we started to go to Ibiza. And then my influence changed in dance music, and I was really into, like, you know, the sort of progressive house. And it almost felt like there was a depth to it that I could really resonate with and move towards. And then it was Ibiza, it was Vegas, it was Glastonbury, you know, it was London, you know, it was Liverpool, you know, you name it. We were clubbing for years. But I got to, like, one side of the coin, it brought me so much connection. You know what I mean? It brought me so much joy. It brought me so much laughter, so many memories. Got me in the body. But it was only for a short period of time. You know, which was a Saturday night. Of course. You know, and then through the week, it was again just trying to navigate, like, you know, almost the mundaneness of life. Fortunately for me, I did have a job that I loved. You know, and I did have. You know, there was and I was in a long-term relationship with someone who was really holistic, and so we were able to sort of dance together, you know what I mean? Not just in that way of relating, but actually, you know, we go out partying and we dance together, which always felt really nourishing. But I remember getting to like 26, 27, and I'd been on the dance floor for 10 years, and I was just like, I'm exhausted, you know what I mean? And I felt like almost a bit of an emotional wreck. And I really needed to get a grip on a sense of reality, because I knew, like, you know, taking drugs wasn't really the way forward. So 26, 27, I made a conscious decision to go travelling, and that was probably the start of more of a holistic journey into movements, you know, through the likes of yoga, meditation, somatic dance work, you know, and that was a whole new container for me, which becomes incredibly nourishing and transformational. I think yoga especially, because it wasn't so linear. I loved going to the gym and having a workout, but it was yoga seemed to offer me a softness, you know, and almost an opportunity to inquire back into the body, and an opportunity to get back into the body. And I started to develop this relationship between the conscious mind, the rational mind of, like, thinking, you know, reasoning, and with this sense of feeling and understanding my emotions and stabilizing my emotions and getting into the body. But that came through also a level of curiosity.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd come from the back end of like, I'm done with partying, or I'm done with taking drugs, and you know, but I had this sense of like, there's more here. Yeah. There's definitely more, and it took me on a wonderful windy road. You know, with that level of curiosity, to begin to explore the body and the magic in the body and the intelligence in the body. You know, the mind is it's a great asset of ours, Craig, but you know, it's the origin of all of our conflict. And when we grab onto these belief systems and we defend these narratives, you know, and these paradigms with our life, then it really stops us from understanding or listening to the body and to the body's needs. And for me, the body's needs are movement. Of course. It's movement. Yeah, I mean, the word emotion comes from energy in motion. Yeah. Emotions need to move. Absolutely. Yeah, and you know, we become so stiff. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of the time, you know, being a man, I think we have this fear around being judged. You know what I mean? Or there's a massive fear around being vulnerable. Certainly, it's seen as a weakness, especially in our culture in the West. Vulnerability is seen as a weakness. I mean, it's being welcomed a lot more nowadays. You know what I mean? But you know, so with that, like, I'm weak if I show vulnerability, or if I'm weak if I show tears, or I'm weak if I stand out, you know, from just standing on the bar, you know, and pretending to be cool. Yeah. You know, there's this whole idea and narrative that like standing at the bar, you know, not moving is cool. Yeah. When really, you know, women want men to move with them. Of course. Do you know what I mean? Of course. And it's learning how to navigate this dance in life. And in relationship with friends, with family members, with, you know, with partners, with children, whatever, and it's reframing it. But it's been, for me personally, it's been incredibly transformational to have certain containers for me to dance in. Yeah. Which brings me back to the body. Especially with men, right? Oh, especially with men. You know, like it's for me. That's been my deepest transformation. Me too. Is actually being in containers with other men. Me too. Holding other men, you know, on retreat. But actually, you know, for me as well, like, I love man time. You know, I love hanging out with my mates. Yeah. I love going to festivals. Yeah. You know, I've got an incredibly new a new relationship with jiu-jitsu. It's intimate, but it's a dance. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it's a controlled one at that. You know, so. There's loads of different containers out there, but when I've been or when I felt safe enough to express myself with other men, then and then we all follow suit. You know, it's almost like it's like you become infected with vulnerability. Do you know what I mean? You know, you're injected, you know, with this permission slip to move, but to move together. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, I mean, you see it with like the likes of the Sufis, do you know what I mean? The Sufi mystics, where they whirl together. Beautiful, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And they're moving, you know, and there's a tribalism to that. Amazing. But there's a oneness to it. You know, I think in our culture, there's such a separation. It's because we have this, you know, identity that we're trying to protect. Yeah. But most of the time, this identity isn't ours. Of course. It's who we've become. You know, and through the conditioning of our environment, and that makes us stiff. You know what I mean? It makes us stoic. You know, and I believe there's time for purpose and stoicism. But it's one side of the coin, and if we don't balance seriousness with playfulness and you know and fluidity and flexibility, then we snap, and that's what happens with men. They snap, you know what I mean? So that might look like a midlife crisis, you know, or it might look like, you know, a disease in the body, or just rage. Do you know what I mean? You know, because it's all this suppression of sadness and intelligence.
We suppress what can't be controlled.
Exactly.
We own what we can control. We suppress the world that can't be controlled. Spontaneity, non-linear ways of thinking and feeling,
but we don't surrender to the body, Craig. Do you know what I mean? You know, you know, being like when we truly let go to music, you know, people think I can't dance, and it's like, well, we're not actually trying to perform any sort of dance in any particular way. It's actually more of an allowing.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? And obviously, if we do create some conditions, I mean, most people probably dance at home on their own. Do you know what I mean? But even some guys won't even start there.
Yeah, of course, because that's fearful.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so it's reframing dance and seeing it as movement, and maybe offering containers, whatever them containers are, to understand or to even try it. Because what happens is when you do try it, and when you start to release into it and explore it, it's fun.
Yeah, it's almost as if the body has its own intelligence, right?
It's fun. It's intoxicating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's releasing.
Yeah.
You know, and I know, you know, having wonderful experiences through movement that I've released. I've had huge releases.
Yeah, me too.
Of shame
Me too.
and guilt that have been in the body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Tucked away in the body,
Trapped.
in the basements of the psyche. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Trapped energy.
Yeah.
And you know, I know you know this story well. There was a time we were in Broughton Hall. It was just where lockdown had hit 2020.
Running a retreat, yeah.
We were running a retreat, but we were just having a bit of time together as a team. And you know, we were there, and we had a couple of glasses of wine, you know, and we were just, and we're all really comfortable around each other. So you know, we're playing house music, we're having a laugh.
Yeah.
You know, the conditions were relaxing anyway. And then you know, we were just all raving in the living room, weren't we?
Yeah, of course.
You know, and then I had this surge of, I had this huge release, and then it come in the form of tears. You know what I mean? And
it just came from nowhere.
It just came, and you know what was beautiful is that I wasn't shamed for it.
Yeah.
You know, you know, you, Dave, and Johnny, you actually held me in that space and allowed me to even go deeper.
Yeah.
You know, so instead of being shamed for it, it made me stop in that process, which is such a necessary transformative process.
Yeah.
It just, and I was crying like a child for 10-15 minutes.
I remember.
But on the other side of that is lightness.
On the other side of grief is relief.
You know, this sense of openness, lightness, beingness. You know, and then also like you know, you've gone beyond your belief system there. Then you know what I mean, and there's a sense of newness.
Yeah.
You know. And it's like, wow, okay. Yeah. And it's then learning how to integrate that back into our daily, you know, our reality, you know what I mean, our day-to-day.
Yeah.
And I know from my own perspective in having these containers, which I explore on a daily basis in some capacity or other, whether it's jiu-jitsu or a little bit of movement of a morning. I mean, I'm lucky I've got a little 6-year-old, you know, I've got a child there.
Yeah.
She has given me permission to come back to my own little inner child.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and I know that's some of the work we do, you know, or it's a big part of the work we do in retreat, isn't it? Is obviously creating conditions, creating trust.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and not even saying dance, we say movements or, you know, and then all of a sudden you watch these men remove boundaries, remove layers, peel off this shame. And all of a sudden you see that, like, you see the joy, the childlike joy on the face, but you see the expression through the body. Yeah. It's, for me, it's the greatest work I've witnessed, because then them men go back into the world. And they're dancing in the world
with the kids,
with life, with their partners, with family members. You know, there's just this like and then there's a real lovely balance between being a man, you know, and offering that masculinity to the world, but then it feels more wholesome and regulated. You know what I mean? Where you know you're able to, you know, you're less reactive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You are more grounded, but you're not so stoic.
You can be spontaneous.
Yeah. You know, and that's trust as well, Craig.
Yeah.
You know, that's trust and spontaneity and surrender. And trust, spontaneity and surrender can be such a scary thing for a bloke.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, how do we, it's about relearning and having a relationship with spontaneity. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's good, you know, control what you can control, but life's a dance between certainty and uncertainty.
Of course.
But we have to relate with uncertainty in a way that feels exciting. You have to dance in the fear, you know, or dance with the unknown. And then you begin to live then. You become less vigilant, you're less in the head, you're more in the body. Yeah. And then you're more trusting the body's intelligence. you know, which is more intuitive.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. What happened to me when I was 26, we'd been raving for about 7 years, full tilt. Not really telling anybody apart from my close group,
yeah.
But, you know, experiencing that other weekend, come down midweek. But then I got a job with the Irish rugby team when I was 26. I'm 26 years of age. I'm living in Dublin. I'm the first full-time fitness trainer ever to work with the Irish rugby team. And I put my mask back on. I believed I needed to put my mask back on. The dancing disappeared. I was in the rugby world. I was getting pissed. I was this little tough guy. I was this little disciplinarian. I was trying to make a name for myself. And I don't remember dancing for years and years and years and years. And then at the age of about 35, 36, I went on a yoga retreat to Thailand, to a tantric yoga school where you and I know it's all about connection. It's all about relating to the energies of life, dancing with life, yogic practice. And it blew my mind open. It absolutely blew my mind open. And within that school, we kept going back, me and my ex-wife, year after year. And then we got into attending Tantra couples workshops. And you've been on tantric ones and I have. And there's always an element of dance.
Yeah.
And I remember, this must have been 14 years ago. We're doing this Osho dynamic meditation, which you and I know well. And the music came on. And we're taught to shake and move around spontaneously and coordinate with our breath. And I couldn't, my nervous system froze.
Wow.
Everybody was moving and I absolutely froze. I was in fear. I was feeling shame. I was feeling guilt. Every fucking thing came up for me.
Fear of being judged.
Oh man, I was like, I could not move.
Yeah.
I froze. But by going back over and over again into that type of environment, which I've done from time to time to time to time to time, I now fucking love it.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually look forward to it. When me and you put on a program, and we know there's going to be an element of movement, and we know the guys are going to actually find it tough until we make them feel safe. But we look forward to it now, don't we?
Yeah, we love it. You know, a big part of the work that we offer is almost like crystallizing and creating a you know, an environment that may last 2 or 3 hours. You know, when it starts with really like simple, gentle, you know, feelings of safety, connection, you know, bit of breath work, you know, and that might be just something simple as like connecting to the breath. Do you know what I mean? Through the body. Yeah. You know, and then and I think the way we are able to almost like give birth to a session and using music, using the frequency of music, of course, using the, you know, these tones that the body can relate with.
Yeah, they speak to the body, don't they?
Yeah, they speak to the body, and then
if the instrument is attuned.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we're doing. You know, we just offer, we create the conditions, and then the body feels like it's tuning in. You know what I mean? Yeah. But we help men like get past that, like that vigilant mind. You know what I mean? Well, I shouldn't be doing this, or I don't know how to do it, or I'm being judged, or fucking hell, who's looking at me? Yeah. And obviously, you know, we've used things like blindfolds. You know what I mean? So like, actually, no one's looking at you.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? So it's that introduction into the body, and then, you know, on the flip side of it, you know, 2 hours into a session, the guys are just in free flow. You know what I mean? In the body, and then they don't want it to end. Yeah. You know, because there's such a remembrance of what they've forgotten, you know, through all the conditioning and what they've downloaded over a long period of time. You know, and it's like, and then there's almost the nervous system has its own experience, but it's almost like it's like, wow, I can move, I can dance. You know, I actually can dance. You know, and it feels good.
And I'm not being judged.
Not being judged. And obviously we're all in the same boat. Yeah. And that's what we do in retreat. You know what I mean? And it's there's almost like, you see it, one guy goes. Yeah. And then another one goes, you know, and then and in the end, you know, and it's everyone's own personal journey, but it also feels collective. You feel a part of something. And yeah, it's on the back end of it all. There's this like oneness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just movements. It's just
of course
embodiment.
Yeah. Now we've tested this over the last 7 years. If you remember when we did our first men's retreat, 5-dayer, probably 60% of what we did was sat in circles.
Yeah.
I was lecturing on the archetypes and being a man and all that kind of stuff and the history of manhood, and we did some yoga.
Yeah.
But rewind the programs that we facilitate now, and it's probably about 70% movement.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Whether that's just simple movements, connection with nature, movement with each other,
shaking,
linear movement, shaking, unwinding, dance if you want to call it dance, expression, verbalization of the movement, because we see the transformation in men.
Yeah.
Remember when we tried it and it was like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Let's forget all that talking. Let's get rid of all the flip charts.
Because you can put them in the head even more.
For sure. So now
it's intellectual.
So now we do a physical practice, and then we check in. How was it? What came up for you? What did you feel in your body?
Yeah.
Another physical practice, check in, and it works a treat, doesn't it?
Most men's revelations have come mostly through the body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously, like reading books and listening to podcasts and coaching, we know works, but it can keep you still in the head. Do you know what I mean? And that's really one faculty of intelligence. We can stress that out so much, is that we can be so invested in that, almost oversubscribed to it. You know what I mean? Yeah. For me, if we don't learn how to drop into the body, I mean, you only have to look at like someone like Wim Hof. He's created such an incredible movement through cold water. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that puts you in the body.
Of course.
It shocks you back to the body, actually. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it has to, otherwise you check out.
Exactly. And breath work. Yeah. So it's now cool. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And we're seeing the modern day man come through.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a new age father come through. Do you know what I mean? Where like it's not just women raising young boys anymore, where the dad goes to work, all day, most days. I'm seeing men like explore wellness, explore self-development, and what comes under that umbrella of self-development can be meditation, cold water therapy, movement, somatic movements, men's circles, vulnerability, sharing. And I think what's been, amazing for me to witness and be a big part of is, you see the retreats that we hold now, and rewinding from like them first retreats we were doing back in like 2016, 2017. It's a totally different experience. Yeah. But we had to go through that. Yeah. And I know we've paced, we don't copy and paste any of this stuff. No. We actually do the work ourselves, and we show up in that every single day.
We had to cultivate a deep relationship with our own bodies in order to teach in that way. But
don't we feel so, there's a quiet confidence then, isn't there, Craig? When you're in the body,
For
you know what I mean? You're relaxed, aren't you? Yeah. It doesn't happen overnight, does it?
No.
Do you know what I mean? There's this warmth. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? There's this openness, there's a natural connectedness, and it's not just into the world, but it's almost, you could say to a greater power. Do you know what I mean? Consciousness, the divine, whatever you want to call it. There's a better relationship with your naturalness, and that then pours out into the world. You know what I mean? For me, it's a great victory. Yeah. It's a natural demonstration of how to be again. Yeah. You know what I mean? That age-old saying, to be or not to be. Yeah. That is the question. Yeah. But we're not grounded in beingness. Yeah. We become doers, but overdoers. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we grab onto what we think we should be doing. Yeah. And a lot of the time, the things that we're doing is based around somebody else's expectation of us. You know what I mean? Or a collective paradigm from the world that you should be doing this and you got to be doing that. Yeah, yeah. And it just creates a lot of confusion, a lot of friction. Yeah. And when men actually find out what motivates them, and they do what they begin to love and truly want, that's a massive step in transformation. That can actually help you get out of the head. But add in, containers to drop into the body. I mean, one which is such a wonderful process is grounding.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
Of course.
Get your feet on the ground.
Of course, yeah.
You know, like, you know, it polarizes you to the planet, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, there's a negative charge, you know, and all of a sudden there's like this, like, here I am again.
Yeah.
I'm part of nature,
yeah.
you know, but we're so disconnected.
Yeah.
Nature's our greatest teacher, Craig.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? But we're not listening.
Of course.
We're not listening to the cycles of life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, we're out there, we're striving, we're hustling. I think there's a very unhealthy paradigm with self-development nowadays, you know what I mean, where you've got to be out there, you've got to be striving, pushing and hustling, and really it can be pushing further away or further into pain, and less into the body. Do you know what I mean? Also, for what?
Of course.
And the big question to ask, you know, and it's a question I know I investigate, what I'm trying to prove, and who am I trying to prove it to? Because half the time men are just trying to prove something, or the little boy inside of them is trying to prove something to probably their dad.
Of course.
You know.
And they don't know that it's unconscious.
They don't know it.
And they might have to go through it like we did.
Yeah. And this is what, you know, this is the work we know well, and the work we're able to help men navigate through. You know, we're not just helping men get in the body, we're helping them then to intellectually understand.
Yeah, of course.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just, you know, how important it is to relax into the present moment, into the PowerPoints of now, but really to understand the psychology and you know what drives us. You know what I mean? And is my driver purposeful? Is it pleasurable? Does it regulate my emotions? You know, does it benefit other people as well as my own, you know, ecosystem? And so there's then a coherence between the body and the mind, where there's just a disconnection. Because so many men are psychologically overthinking, you know, and they're just up here. So when we can understand our psychology, get in the body, it's a recipe for transformation.
Well, our psychology is in the body.
Exactly.
And that is difficult to sell to men.
Yeah.
Because it's a felt experience.
It's a felt experience.
There's no logic. Logic lives in the cognitive brain.
Yeah.
There's no logic in the body. Sometimes me and you can be on a retreat, we can be moving, all of a sudden you'll have a release. You can't fucking understand it, but your body has released something. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it's just the language of emotion. It's the language of movement. It's,
well, we also give men the permission that you don't have to understand it.
Yeah.
Just feel it.
Exactly.
Just feel, be with it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think this is also a wonderful opportunity to be with your emotions. You know what I mean? Like our human experience is gonna feel every emotion, a whole host of emotion, even on a daily basis.
Yeah, of course.
But it's learning how to be okay with sadness, with grief, you know, with disappointments. It's okay to be, you know, learn how to be okay with anger.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like we change the relationship to it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And once we change the relationship to it and we feel it, then there's a healing that happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And all that is just again a reminder to rest in your nature. You know, naturalness, and that inevitably is the byproduct of all the work we do, is to allow men to just rest in their nature, but give them tools, education, and direct experience, because it's in the direct experience.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, with some of the retreats that we hold now, we offer a range of nature. You know what I mean? You know, which is a big part. We take men to Peru, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, we're in the mountains.
Yeah.
You know, we're with the elements. Do you know what I mean? You know, and then we're with other blokes.
Yeah.
We create safety for vulnerability and connection, and then you know we you know, and then we have a process. You know, for over 5 days where we're just entering our edge each day, entering our edge. You know, so and then. You know, and we know it works. Yeah, we know it works. Yeah. And then it's when you see these guys at the end of retreat, and then when they go home. Yeah. And then and that's where you know you check in with them months down the line, and they're just like, wow, my life is transforming and it's changing. Some men go into an old paradigm. Yeah. They go back into an old model. Do you know what I mean? So that you also have to learn how to recreate your little, you know, your own enterprise, which begins to fit the model of this new person you met on retreat. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
And that's a big part of how we integrate now for men as well.
Yeah. I'm just back from Copenhagen today. You know, I was in Copenhagen for a week, and I actually attended a workshop with a group called Embodied World. You know them as well, Martin, and the theme of the workshop was transforming anger through movement and dance.
Wow.
And it was absolutely fascinating because I still have work to do in that area.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I'm challenged, especially by an intimate partner, and I project my anger outwards instead of grounding it and feeling it and being with it and owning it.
Yeah.
So it was fucking amazing. It was absolutely amazing. You know, how we can learn to understand what anger feels in the body, and how when it comes we can ground it into the earth, but also feel it into the body. You know, a lot of what we did was actually counterintuitive to what I thought we would be doing. I thought we'd be kind of learning how to regulate anger, but it was more how to be with it. We were doing a lot of practices around contracting the core and contracting the body and really contracting into that anger and feeling it and not giving it to our partner or not running away from it.
Yeah.
So, you know, this kind of domain of movement therapy, it's so exciting.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I think we're moving in the right direction. You know, obviously guys still go to the gym, me and you still work out from time to time, but we're seeing yoga, we're seeing different types of yoga, we're seeing animal flow.
Yeah,
you know, we seem to be moving in that right direction.
Yeah.
In the circles that we see. I know there's stuff going on in the world still. I know that racism still exists at the hands of men, sexism, homophobic issues. I know it still exists, violence, war. But all I can say is, in our reality, what we see on a day-to-day basis, in our sphere of perception, men are changing.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely are changing. I think, you know, we are contending with this sort of archaic, patriarchal, you know, paradigm. And I'd like to think that, you know, we are going in the right direction. You know, it'll be interesting to see how it does unfold. I know the work we offer will be something, this is something that we'll do for the rest of our lives, you know. And I do it because, firstly, I enjoy it. You know, it reminds me of you know, how to step back in line with integrity, you know, and I need to be called out. Do you know what I mean? I need to be checked in with other men.
Yeah.
I need to feel, you know, that men have got me back, but they're also, you know, calling me out if I'm being a little bit, you know, if I'm objectifying the world, or I'm being a little bit disrespectful. But we're all learning, Craig.
Yeah, of course.
We also have to give ourselves permission to fuck up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but it's when we can truly look at that and go, okay, I've made a mistake. Yeah. So I think atonement and forgiveness, firstly for yourself, you know, we're going to project anger onto the world.
Of course.
Do you know what I mean? But the moment
there's a lot to be angry about.
Oh, of course there is. Yeah. And it's when we capture it. You know, our mood changes all the time, you know, through the world, and we're going to get triggered by it. I think the more and more we are resting in our naturalness, the more we cultivate neutrality. And so you're less polarised. So, you know, your mood's more regulated. Yeah. It's very scientific what goes on in the body. Yeah. And there's a whole host of things that help to find that neutrality. But where was I going with that? Is that I think, you know, we have to give ourselves permission to, you know, to actually feel the fear or to move towards transformation, you know, because that's where on the other side of that there's a new man. Do you know what I mean? Or there's a more integrated man. We
have to learn that feelings are not the enemy.
They're not the enemy, you know, and not to be afraid of them. And so it's this new relationship with feelings and feeling the feelings. But accountability, you know what I mean? Self-accountability and taking responsibility for your behaviour and your actions. That's another big process, because we can be ashamed or we can feel humiliation in the body through our actions, you know. And it really takes courage then. You know what I mean? It takes deep courage to look at some of your behaviour and go, all right, that's unacceptable. You know what I mean? Or you know, that's selfish. Yeah. Or someone's, you know, I'm not, you know, being generative to the world. You know, I'm not maximising my potential or causing a good effect here. I'm actually, you know, there's almost like a hate through my projection onto the world. So we just have to capture our behaviour. That's a huge almost blind spot in our society. Yeah. Is actually taking a look in the mirror, and there's a sense of like then growing up. You know what I mean? Cleaning up your act. Yeah. You know, and taking responsibility and but being compassionate towards our own stuff rather than condemning our stuff is actually owning it instead of disowning it. And that is, for me, is such a great transformative experience. When you look in the mirror, you're owning your shit, and then there's then a sense of deep integrity. You know what I mean? You're close to truth there. Do you know what I mean? There's a maturity, there's a cleanliness. You're maximising your potential. You know, and that's initiating. Most men nowadays, they're just disowning. You know what I mean? They're afraid to own, they're afraid to feel. It's not their fault, but we have to educate and re-educate and offer these, you know, processes where it's okay to own, take responsibility, calling out people out with love, not blaming and shaming, but
with kindness.
With kindness. You know, and just saying, listen, I'm seeing something here. You know, it's a bit leaky. Can we zip up a little bit?
Niceness is false, kindness is truth.
Yeah, definitely.
Martin, I fucking love this conversation. Tell me, what does your dance look like over the next few years? So, again, I've got a little 6-year-old there, and my dance is in the containers of adventure, you know. So, we just bought a camper van. So, you know, me, my missus and my kid, Assis is nearly 7 now, so she's ready for the world, you know what I mean? And we've been on some wonderful holidays so far. So that dance for me is with my family first and foremost, and adventure, new places, new possibility. So I want to really dance in that. Nice. For me, I love jiu-jitsu, and it's something I'm committed to now, and see it as a long-term project. Not actually trying to get anywhere with it. I just respect this process of getting into the body, you know, and even picking up little injuries is like, it's like, okay, my body's speaking to me. Do you know what I mean? How can I be with this? You know, how can I nurture the body in a way that, you know, keeps it healthy, you know, keeps it strong. But I love dance music, and I'm starting to move towards like even playing around with dance music and DJing, you know. Oh, nice.
So I think I'm always going to get my feet on the dance floor as well, Craig. I mean, I'm going to Glastonbury in a few weeks. I've been going to Glastonbury since 2006, and that for me is almost like the mothership, you know, where you're just like, you know, you're in a field, feet are on the ground, and it's just full, you know, there's a permission slip to just like be open, you know what I mean? And I like dancing in that container, because you can almost like, I mean, I like to wear really quirky clothes as well, you know what I mean? So, you know, festivals, travel, but and jiu-jitsu, you know, they're almost like my new containers. But again, you know, men's work, you know, service to others, that's where I'm dancing as well.
Yeah, nice. For me, I've already kind of booked onto the next 10-day program with this group I'm into. You know, there's a 10-day dance retreat in December, because I just see so much potential.
Yeah.
There's layers and layers and layers and layers of potential.
Yeah.
I'm not disappointed in who I am at the moment. I'm just fucking fascinated. I feel like a magician who's peeling back layers and recreating who I am and what I can do and how I feel, and I'm just fascinated to go on that journey and move and dance for 10 days with this group. And in terms of the dance of life for me, I'm about to go on an amazing adventure.
Yeah.
I'm not basing myself in the UK. I'm going to base myself in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to be in Peru, the US, in the UK for the next year, just bouncing around these different environments.
What I love about you, Craig, is that you have this really wonderful capacity to contemplate what's important and where you're at, and that with a sense of not being afraid of letting go of the old. You know, we hold on. A lot of people hold on, and you have this great capacity through practice to and through understanding of the importance of letting go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when we let something go, we also invite something in.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so you're always naturally moving. You know, life is actually, it's an impermanent dance. You know what I mean? There's no you know, nothing is permanent. And when we move with this impermanence, but we're grounded in the heart, you know, I know you really have a real great sense of who Craig White is today. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But also, you know, what makes him, who's he moving to tomorrow? Yeah. You know what I mean? But also, who was he in the past? Yeah. You know, so you're able to zoom out and see it all, and be okay with it. You know, and the person you are today, is almost, I wouldn't say different, just a more refined Craig White. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You know, but he's closer to his heart. He's, you know, he stabilizes emotions better. You know, you also make really skilled decisions. You know, life's a dance in making skilled choices, isn't it?
It is.
And I think to be able to see life, reason with it, listen to the body, understand what's important, and then make decisions. Yeah. And that decision might just be to let go or to trust.
Of course.
And all of a sudden you go, all right, I'm okay not knowing. Yeah. But I trust that I'm showing up today, and I'm in the heart, because you've only got now. Exactly. You know what I mean? And as a species, especially the human species in our culture, we're so invested in the future. We're always predicting and projecting and rehearsing a possible future, and it can be a poor use of energy, and it can take us away from the PowerPoint of now. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, and from the simple wonderment of being. Yeah. So it's nice to have a fucking direction, and I know you've got direction, but I know you don't go too far into the future anymore, do you? Do you know what I mean? You know, you're not projecting 10 years. No. You probably go as far as 6 months. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. And I know that has also makes you a much better coach, because you're able to then, you're a tried and tested model, and you're able to, you know, when you're coaching men, is help them and give them permission before they give themselves permission to just say, hang on a minute, let's zoom out a little bit. You know what I mean? But let's also begin to not get so anal in a legacy. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's more just like, you know, for me, it's about showing up. Yeah. That is it. Because if I can show up today, and I'm refining and recreating, and staying close to me nature, I know I'm going to live. I'm not in the head trying not to die, and I'm afraid of death. Yeah. I want to know I've lived, and I want to know I'm living. Yeah. And that's something I see within you now. Is like, there's so much, like, your relationship to fear has changed. Yeah. You're not afraid. Yeah. You know, you're so excited about your life, but that plays out in how the resonance, the frequency you bestow on the world. It's just, you just fucking look great to be around. Yeah. Warm, comforting. You know, and it's, you shine a light of confidence that other people just feel. You know what I mean? But that you know, that is the work that is inevitably done on our own, and it's done in private before it's done with groups and in the world.
Well, appreciate that. A few years ago I would have deflected that.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Owning it.
What I want to say now is important. It's something that we spoke about recently. So we're both going to continue to work with men and support men, and, you know, we've tried a lot of things over the years. You know, we've brought men on retreat, we've opened them up, we've sent them back home. But at the age of 52 now, you know, I am feeling older. I am feeling more mature than I have for a long time, and aging a little bit as well, and sense of responsibility to help men. Men need consistency, Martin.
Yeah.
So we've kind of recently decided that whatever we do from this point onwards with men, it won't just be a one-off retreat. It'll be consistent. So we've already created a 7-month program called Iconic, which starts on January the 15th, which takes men on a journey over 7 months with an embedded online program, regular group calls, a retreat, transformational retreat to Machu Picchu, and then integration on the back of it, because we can't just open men up and send them home anymore.
No.
We need this container. And I also, it's not an ambition because it will happen. So I'm also going to create a 3-year men's leadership program, probably within the next 2 years. Again, to really give a level of consistency. Year 1's going to be self-leadership. Year 2 is going to be leading others, and year 3 is going to be building your team.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, I'd like to say, like, you can't do it on your own, but you can, because I know I have, and if I can do it, anyone can do it. But I don't want to travel alone.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I have, I mean, I've got some wonderful containers, you know, with men, you know, from all walks of life, by the way. Yeah. And what is at the heart of all them containers is truth and integrity and honesty.
100%.
You know what I mean? And that's so important for me. You know, and brotherhood. And that's what brotherhood is to me. And we're learning as we go. I'm still learning as I go, you know what I mean? And I'm still holding my hand up and taking responsibility. But consistency is key. For me, I think it's important to find a strategy, Craig. Do you know what I mean? And then I think when the strategy's there, we can create momentum, you know what I mean, with others. Yeah. You know, and then there's a competence then. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And then for me, you just feel like a man. Yeah. You feel like you're initiated, you're grounded, and you feel like you're causing an effect. Then, do you know what I mean? You know, for me, my biggest effect is with my child. Do you know what I mean? And she's a driver for me. Of course. To fucking own me shit, to tell the truth. You know what I mean? You know, and I'm still deflecting sometimes, and I'm still withholding the truth, or you know, manipulating life, but I capture it. You know, and then it takes courage. I need to be brave to be open again. But definitely when we're consistent, people, you don't just build trust within yourself. Yeah. Other people trust you. Yeah. And that comes, you become consistent. You don't have to try to be consistent. Yeah. You just need strategy, momentum, and a container. Yeah. And all of a sudden, because you're showing up in integrity each day, you're naturally consistent. Yeah, of course. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Whew. What a conversation. Any final words before we wrap this one up?
Dance. Move.
Dance.
Yeah. You know, movement comes in many forms, and for anyone listening to this who's been inspired by it and doesn't know where to start, like, you know, I would offer simple containers. Take a cold shower for 40 days. Start there. Do you know what I mean? Get up and have a cold shower for 40 days straight. You know what I mean? And, you know, go walk in your local park. You know what I mean? Once a week for an hour. Yeah. Start there, you know what I mean? And then to extend that, you know, it just might just be a little bit of shaking. Yeah. Just a bit of shaking.
Isn't it bizarre how, and I'm generalising here, I'm aware, that we can do that. Yeah. But when we do that, something else comes up and we freeze and we think, whoa, and that little kid comes in, oh, stop being a girl, stop being home, stop being gay.
It's not allowed.
All the crap from school that we picked up.
Yeah, you little pussy, pack that in. Yeah.
Still apparent, isn't it? And that's why we need to get over ourselves.
Yeah, we can be hard as nails and equally soft and playful and relaxed.
What a message for men out there. Can you be hard as nails and soft and gentle like a flower?
Yeah, there you go.
So, thanks for this. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Check out my new website, Craig White Mentoring. Got a new YouTube channel, Craig White Mentoring. And check us out on Instagram. And you can find me, Craig White, on LinkedIn. And Martin, where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram, Martin Bowen Meditation. I've got a website, martinbowenmeditation.co.uk. Yeah. A little shout out to Win-Win Water. You know, this is a wonderful new product. project that I'm involved in. It's a non-plastic water bottle. It's a bioplastic, and this is, we're really, moving into this direction. It's wonderful. Win-win water. Check that one out, fellas.
Win-win water. See you all soon, and go and dance your dance.